Hello and welcome to the Hancock Creative Podcast. I'm Shawn Hancock.
And I'm Missy Hancock. And we are being produced today by the lovely Vinton Bain.
The lovely.
And he's wonderful. He's one of our favorites. So today we're going to talk to you about embracing your creative self. It is our hope that after listening today, you would see the value in your own creativity a little more than you did before, and that you'd be inspired to engage in the world more creatively. So, Shawn, where do we want to start?
Well, a good place to start is for you to understand the importance of creativity if you hadn't thought about it already. And so we would just like to share with you a few things that just come to the top of our heads when we thought about creativity and the importance of it and why we need it. Generally speaking, the world needs creativity because it progresses mankind. We have progress when we engage in creativity. We have new inventions and new discoveries and things like that. And so humanity progresses when we use creativity. It's a great tool for problem solving, and so we just really need it. And these things seem to be obvious, but the things that maybe not so obvious are when we look at ourselves and why we as individuals want to use creativity. One reason why we'd want to use creativity is that it's personally satisfying. When we engage in creativity, whether it be in the arts or doing things, crafts around the house or hobbies or whatever, it is personally rewarding. We set a challenge in front of us. We achieve that challenge, or we achieve the goals that we set, and we look at the end product when we're finished with whatever it is we're making or what have you, and it's personally satisfying, it's personally rewarding, and we need that in our lives, in our daily lives, to just as an encouragement that we are here for a reason and we're not just wasting space. And it also, depending on whatever it is that we produce, it benefits others typically. But even beyond that, what's great about creativity, personal creativity, is that it just generates happiness within ourselves. It just simply makes us happy, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just seeking joy and happiness. That's the point of life, is just to to find joy. And a lot of times we spend a lot of time just paying the bills or working ourselves to death, and we don't stop and appreciate the life that we have. We don't stop and enjoy happiness. There's a quote I like to share. The best use of imagination is creativity. The worst use of imagination is anxiety. And that's from Deepak Chopra. And I think that's a great quote, because that's kind of the choices that we have, is that we can use our imagination to worry ourselves to death, or we can use our imagination to do something creative, to make something awesome, or to do something that encourages other people. And in some ways, when you make a work of art or something creative, it is in some ways an encouragement to the world, depending on what it is.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think you touched on it, but when you ask people what they're seeking the most, or what if you could, what would you want out of life? A ton of people will answer just straight up, I just want to be happy. People are looking for happiness. And, there's tons of books out, in the last, 5 years, 10 years on happiness and happiness projects, and they're all great. But one of the most effective ways to find happiness is by exploring your own creativity. And so we really feel like that is just, if that was the only thing that came out of creativity, that would be enough, and there's so much more that does come out of it when we engage ourselves creatively. I mean, all good literature came out of creativity. All, the best movies, our favorites, all that, you know how great and important creativity is. But
one thing that we had talked about earlier, which I think is interesting and fits in this topic, is that we personally have spent a significant amount of time being creative, and in a way that has helped us in not spending a significant amount of money on things that makes us happy. So, you can look around and you see people that in their search for happiness, they will spend money and purchase things that make them happy. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but if you don't have it, if you don't have the money to spend, creativity is a great alternative. And I think it's kept us sane for a many number of years.
Oh, yes. Creativity has kept me sane in many, many ways. When we have 6 kids, and so that, isn't that big of a deal nowadays that there's people on TV with 20, but it's not always easy when you have, a bunch of little people in your life and you're trying to take care of them and stay sane while you do it. and so in my, I would say early to mid 30s, I think we had 4 kids at that point, and I was struggling to stay sane and figure out how to make this all work. And we came across, I was always, I spent my 20s reading every self-help book known to mankind in order to be, feel like a fully functioning adult, which I don't think still don't feel that way. But, but there was one in particular, one book, and it was like one of those moments that stands out in time in my mind. And I had, at that point, Shawn was an artist. That's, what he did for a living. I was mostly a stay-at-home mom. I'd teach drama on the side and do little things, but I mostly, was a mom. Was staying home with a bunch of little kids. Mm-hmm. And so we found that I checked out this book at the library called Time Management for the Creative Person. I don't even think I read the whole book because, quite frankly, I didn't finish lots of books. But I started reading it, and I'm reading the introduction, and it was like the clouds parted and the angels sang, and I suddenly felt like I am not alone in the world because they were describing me. They were describing a creative person. And I don't think I'd always known I was creative. Anything art related, that was my thing. And that was my jam. So I knew that about myself, but I didn't know that it made me different from other people in some ways. And so it's like I was always trying so hard to be and do and live up to everyone else's expectations. And it's like, it seemed like, there's these people in my life that just knew how to do this thing so much better than me. And they would have clean houses and their children were dressed, and not running around in diapers. And I was always just like, man, what is my problem? And reading that, I realized, I suddenly felt understood. And literally in the introduction, I started to cry. I'm like, I'm not alone in the world. And so now, granted, my children might not have always had clothes on, but, we had tent houses and, all sorts of fun and exciting adventures in our home. And so, but anyway, I guess the whole point of that is just that I felt understood. Basically, my journey of embracing my creativity was this journey from feeling inferior and alone to suddenly feeling special and understood. And not special in the way that's like, I'm special, I'm better than everyone, but just like not feeling so crappy about myself and realizing that some of the things that made me maybe not as great at certain aspects of adulthood, also made me freaking awesome as a mom or just as a as a human, as a fun, nice person to hang out with. And so that's what pursuing my creativity and recognizing my creativity did for me. And so that was probably really where I just like overtly started going, wait, no, I'm pursuing a creative life intentionally. Before then, I just did it naturally. And I mean, the creative life is, we joked earlier that that's what's kept us sane, but that's only a teeny, partial joke, because it's kind of true. Because life is not always easy, and if you can, write or paint or whatever your outlet is. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna ask you. You changed your expectations on yourself, because before you had the expectations that other people put on you, and by embracing your creativity, you altered your own expectations, or you developed your own expectations of what you expected out of yourself.
Well, yes. I mean, I was no longer did I see myself just as inferior. I saw myself as different. It's like, oh, I am different in this way. I have, it just was different. I went from feeling inferior to feeling, okay about myself. So that was huge.
Yeah.
So in that, so for people who are like, well, a lot of people will hear my story, that little blurb and say, oh yeah, I relate to that. And other people will be like, I always wanted to be more creative. And the thing is, if you want to be more creative, that's your inner creative person, begging to get out. And often we'll have people ask us, well, can creativity be taught? Or and Shawn's going to talk to us some more about that. He's thumbing. Wait a minute. You're stealing my stuff.
Stole my note.
Okay, you go. Can creativity be taught, Shawn?
Yeah. So once upon a time, someone asked me if I thought creativity could be taught, and I didn't really have an answer because I hadn't really thought about it. As a matter of fact, this was an art teacher who asked me this question, and if an art teacher didn't know the answers to that, I'm not sure that I could come up with it. But I do have my best guess, and my guess is that you can teach creativity in the same way that you teach that you teach someone how to love. So, in a way, no, you can't really teach it. We all have it already, or we have the ability to do it. In the same way that we have the ability to love, we have the ability to create or be creative. And so, in the same way that you wouldn't teach someone to love, you would show them how to love. You would love them, and they would learn that way. And so it works the same with creativity, where you show them how to be creative. You basically, what it comes down to is that you would nurture the creativity in them. You would encourage it. You would nurture them in their own personal creativity. And so you don't really teach it. You cultivate it. You grow it.
I have a really good example, if I can interrupt you for just a second.
Please.
One time I was doing a talk at a MOPS meeting. It's Mothers of Preschoolers. And I did this. It was on how to raise creative kids. And at the end of the thing, and it went really well, and I felt like these women were like, yes, they really got it. And my main point was, if you want to raise creative kids, model it for them. Be creative yourself. And I had this woman come up to me at the end and say, I always wanted to sew. Do you think I could sew? And I was like, yes, I do. I think you could sew if you really want to. And it was so weird to me and bizarre that she really wanted my permission to say that that's okay. And I mean, as weird and bizarre as that was, that is what that introduction did for me. It gave me the permission to say, wait, this is your nature. This is who you are. And it's like we have so many expectations put on us as just, I keep saying adults, but yeah, it's hard to be an adult. And so we have so many expectations put on us in general, just to perform, in our careers, in our, parenting, just in every aspect of our lives. And there's no one, not many of us have people saying, you know what you need? You need to just write a poem today. Remember how you used to love to write poetry? Well, that's what you need to do today. Nobody tells you that. I mean, well, I might tell you that. But most people are not going to tell you that.
Few people.
Few people will tell you that. But, and that's, I'm giving myself way too much credit, because there's a whole movement, acknowledging the importance of creativity. And we just are happy to be a part of that. But anyway, I just felt like that was a good example. Here's this woman, wanting a creative outlet in her life, and asking me if I thought she could sew,
Right. And the funny thing is that it doesn't take much to inspire creativity in other people. You just have to do it, and they'll see it, and they'll want to do it as well. It's something in us. We want to do it. We just feel guilty about doing it a lot of times, because the world tells us that it's a waste of time. The world tells us that it's, frivolous. And the fact of the matter is that it is the thing that makes the world go around. It is the thing that betters our lives, that, makes humanity what it, great.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not alone, but, it's a
huge.
major
Yeah.
part of who we are as the human race. And it goes totally for granted. I mean, a lot of people think that it's work or something, that labor is the most important thing that you could do. And I'm not saying that labor is not important. Labor is important. We need to work. We need to, and there's a lot of creative people who just sit on the couch all day long. And I've been there myself, not productive. But being productive is much better than being unproductive.
Yes.
Let me tell you, being productive is
rewarding.
Is rewarding
Yeah.
in many ways. But that does not negate creativity. Creativity is highly important. And so ideally, you would be productive with your creativity. You would mesh the two together. But a lot of people have the attitude that creativity interferes with work or interferes with productivity.
Yeah.
And it certainly does not. In fact, it enhances it many times.
Yes.
So now that we've established that cultivating creativity is important, the question is, how do we cultivate creativity? And one thing that we can do, or one thing that you can do personally, that's really easy. In fact, all these things are pretty easy. It's just a matter of remembering to do it. Creativity needs input. Creativity needs to have lots of resources to pull from. In fact, that's how creativity works, is that if you can imagine yourself sitting in a room and you're surrounded by a multitude of objects. Most rooms are full of multitude of objects, aren't they? And you're having to come up with some sort of creative idea. Well, the way creativity works is that you're just grabbing all of these objects and you're just putting them together to create this new idea. And all these objects and all these things, they're inspiration.
Yeah.
So you're needing input. You need input from friends, input from the internet, input from bookstores, input from nature, yes. And a lot of times I go to And Missy likes to call this an artist date.
Well,
I don't
like to call it that. That's what Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way calls it. I like to call it the artist date. I'm going to coin that for myself. No,
I'm sorry.
No, you should read that book, though. It's really good.
The Artist's Way?
Yeah.
So, well, I don't really consider this a date. This would be a terrible date. But sometimes I go to just the hardware store. And
we have done that before on a date. Don't
date?
act like that's not one of our dates.
That's our kind of date.
Barnes and Noble and Lowe's, baby. That's how we roll.
So a couple of plugs there. Maybe we'll get some money for that. No, so you go through the hardware store, and maybe this is something that you've never, maybe you're not a handy person or mechanical in any way, but if you go through the aisles and just look at things and see what they do, how they're used. Some of the coolest things is going through the aisle and seeing all the variety of pulleys, the little tiny pulleys, and the way that the kitchen drawer slides out, and it's got those little slides, I don't even know what they're called, but they're on the sides of the kitchen drawer that slides out. Well, people have taken those things and made them where, you can put them on your arm and have like Wolverine claws that come out, and that's really cool. But, if you go through the store looking at things and say, how can I use that for something else? That is huge in your creative ability. You're building your input, you're building, your resources. Mind resources.
You would not be surprised to find out that Shawn is currently building lightsabers with our 3 youngest daughters by going to the hardware store and finding cool stuff.
Finding the most random objects. And, of course, every time you go there, there's somebody there can help you. And they think that you're working on plumbing or something. And if you tell them, don't tell them what you're doing. Just say, no, thank you, I'm just looking. Because if you try to tell them what you're doing, you confuse them, and their heads kind of explode. So I just say, I either say, no, I'm all right, I'm just trying to figure something out, or I'll say, I'm working on an art project, and that's it, because they usually go away if you mention that you're working on an art project. But that is, input is probably the number one key ingredient to cultivating creativity, and that's why we love Pinterest so much. And it can be a huge waste of time.
It can also be a huge waste of time, but it is a way to get input, get those images in. Some of the best ideas I have ever had are the ideas that I get when I think I saw something. It's like I'll see something and I go, oh my God, that's so cool. And then it's like, oh, well, that's not that cool. That's not what I thought it was. But then voila, I got an idea what I thought I saw. And so that's, that's one way it works.
Yeah. Happy accident. So another thing that you can do is take on an attitude of fearlessness. And I'm not talking about, cliff jumping or what have you, but if that's your thing, fine. But I'm talking about what Missy and I used to call risking food poisoning, and I don't really encourage you to risk food poisoning, but it's just sort of the idea that you go and you try a restaurant that you normally wouldn't try because maybe it's a little dive somewhere, a little locally owned restaurant that's not a chain, and so we used to call that we'd risk food poisoning, where we just pick a random place.
And only once did we nearly get it. So, and we are like in our 40s, so that's pretty good.
Only one time did we honestly think that we were risking food poisoning.
Because we went back the next week and it was closed by the health department. And I'm just saying, everything smelled like fishy, weird, not good.
And
fish.
It was not a fish place that served fish.
Anyway, sorry.
Whatever. But so approach that philosophy with caution. But the point is try something new. Try something that you hadn't tried before. Go places. Go to a side of town you've never been before.
Go on adventures.
Yeah.
And part of having an attitude of fearlessness is this if that doesn't come natural to you, just recite these words. I can do that. Because that is huge to have to look at something and go, I can do that.
Right.
Or even if you're not confident enough to say, I can do that, at least say, I could do that and start figuring out how and explore that, because that is going to cultivate your creativity.
Something else that you could try is to in the same vein as being fearless, is to not be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And sometimes we feel like that it's wrong to make a mistake. And, if it's a life and death situation, like if you're working in an ER, maybe that might be the case. But for most of us, making a mistake is not a life or death situation. So, a lot of, we just want to be right most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of overrated. Being right is overrated, I think. And sometimes it's okay to be wrong. And sometimes it's okay to make mistakes. And, as long as we're, not risking someone's life or whatever, including our own, then making mistakes is not that big a deal. So you want to paint your living room purple or whatever, which we've done. You know what? Try it. It's okay to make that mistake. And I've seen people it drives me crazy, but they'll get color samples and of different taupe colors or whatever, off-whites. They'll get like 5 off-white colors and debate for days on what they should paint their living room. And that's the stupidest. I mean, come
Don't
on.
pick on people.
Sorry, but come on. I mean, just pick one and try it. You know, it's okay.
You're not marrying it. I mean, you can
paint over it.
You can paint over it, exactly. Well, and part of that, being able to make mistakes, and this is just part of being a healthy and happy human being, but it is a key point in cultivating your creativity as well. And that is just learning to love and accept yourself. Because if you're constantly just like trying so desperately to measure up and to, say, what's expected of me? How am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to act? What do they, the proverbial they say that I have to do or be, and trying to live up to this thing that is not even defined, you're never going to live up to that. You have to own your choices. You have to be intentional, and you just have to love and accept yourself. This is who I am, and this is how I am. That's not saying I can't grow and become better. It's not saying that I can't keep a cleaner house, or I can't do this. It's just saying that I love me where I am, and that's part of cultivating your creativity. Because if you can't love yourself, if you can't accept yourself, you won't let yourself make a mistake. You won't let yourself, even try to be creative. So I just want to tell you that you're wonderful, and that you are lovely, and that you are loved, and that you are worthy of a happy life. So where are we going from here?
Well, I thought we had touched on earlier living up to other people's expectations. And I think a major important part of cultivating your own creative life or whatever is to avoid negative people and negative language, negative self-talk and that sort of thing. And you will, if you even think about doing something creative, there's going to be like 10 people surround you to tell you that that's the stupidest thing you've ever done.
Yeah, so, especially if it's like, you're like, I'm going to do this thing, and it's a bit of a life change, or if it's like it's more than like I'm going to crochet a scarf, which you should crochet a scarf if that sounds fun to you.
Like if you want to color your hair, I mean, how damaging is that? But I mean, there's going to be a plethora of people
who have an opinion.
Yeah, who are like, tell you what you shouldn't do, and so ignore that. Ignore the negative talk that you hear from people. And go for it. Do the crazy thing that you have in your mind to do. and be your own judge, or be your,
you have to stop valuing other people's opinions above your own, and that is so hard because we've spent all of our young lives looking for other people's approval. Just the school system alone, setting up grading and all that. It's just you're just set up to say, oh, is that okay? Am I doing all right? Is that good? But you have got to stop valuing other people's opinions of your life and of you over your own opinion of you.
Yeah. You have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's easy for some people, and for some people it's not so easy, because we've kind of been conditioned to be conformist.
Yeah.
And we are looking for approval at every turn. We want to know if we're passing or failing, and forget all that crap.
Yeah.
You're passing. If you are eating and breathing and still on this planet,
exactly,
then you're passing. Just keep it up. Good work.
Yay!
And then just, do the creative, crazy thing that you want to do, and don't listen to people's opinions. But start to formulate your own opinions about everything, and take a step back from your friends and your families and your religion and your political affiliation, and say, do I really believe this?
Yeah.
Start asking questions, and you'll start thinking for yourself. And some of you are thinking, why are they telling me this? This is obvious. But for some people, it's not obvious. And we are giving you permission to do that. It's a good thing to do.
And it sounds stupid. To me anyway, for us to say, and I think we said it on another episode, was we give you permission. And it's like, who the hell are they to give me permission? That's what I would think when someone says, I give you permission. Who the hell are you? But some people really do. That's comforting and helpful. And it's like, and if you're someone who it's like, really, you're giving me permission? It's just like I said, the lady asking me, do you think I could sew? It's like, yes, whatever it is. Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes, you can do it. When we have a shop, can I tell this?
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. So, along those same lines, Missy made these certificates for our shop, and they're just permission.
It's creative license.
Creative license.
Yeah.
And basically, you can buy these for $3 in our store.
In our store. It's not online, though, but eventually I'll put them online. But just so you know, if you buy a T-shirt online, I send you a little mini one for free. Booyah, sucka booyah. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, she was making these. When she was first making these, I was like, nobody's going to buy this. Who's going to buy this? It's just a piece of paper for $3 that says you can be creative.
No,
go and do it.
It says it's better than that.
I know it is, okay. But that's essentially what I was seeing. I was like, who's going to spend $3 on that? We keep selling out of those things
because people want a creative license. They want.
It's like a permission slip for you to be creative, and I would. It's mind-boggling to me, but it's like people love it. And
also, my best-selling wooden sign, because I paint all these wooden signs in our shop, is "Don't let the bastards get you down." And so we know that this message is important. Yeah. So, don't let the bastards get you down.
Yeah. So, and also, don't forget to stop your own personal negative self-talk.
Oh, yes. That's the
stop
worst.
Telling yourself that you're stupid, that you're foolish, that you're irresponsible. Stop telling yourself that crap. It's not true. Just push through
do your
and
best.
Do it. Yeah.
We hit on Julia Cameron's Artist Way earlier, but another thing that is part of avoiding negative people is something that also comes from that book, The Artist Way, and you really should read it if you're trying to unearth your creative self. She says, avoid the crazy makers. And we all have them. They're people who are like leeches, and they suck the life out of you. They make things crazy. You're having a nice, calm day, and they call you with their drama. And it's like you have to avoid those people, at least for a season, so that you can kind of find yourself and find your creative self. And so, and don't feel bad. I always feel bad. I'm like the queen of guilt. I can guilt myself into feeling bad about anything at any time. And so, I get it, but don't feel bad about backing away from certain relationships. If they're holding you back,
if they're toxic,
if they're toxic, if they're keeping you from, living a more fulfilling life, then, you just have to do it. and do it for yourself.
Sometimes it can be people that are really close to you and people that, whose feelings will get hurt. And it's like sometimes you just have to do it. You have to, guard yourself for a time until you're really going and moving forward with your creativity and with your satisfied life, with your joy, with your happiness. And then you can just bring those people back slowly.
And you can give them boundaries.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say, listen, you know what? The way you put me down all the time, not okay. I'm not all right with that. And they'll decide whether, at that point, if you give them boundaries, they decide whether they want to be in your life. And that's okay.
Right. Yeah. That is true.
But part of, you said stopping the negative self-talk.
Well, yeah, and also I think that includes not being your own crazy maker.
Exactly.
Because you can pursue drama, and I think people pursue their drama because it kind of brings them some weird satisfaction, some sort of weird happiness. It makes them feel useful or what have you. But, it's really not beneficial. And I think that drama can be replaced with creativity. Doing something creative, doing something artistic, that sort of thing. I think we're needing that. And so we replace it with stupid artificial stuff like, drama from, like reality television or something. That stuff is just crap, man. And just, your life doesn't have to be that. Don't generate that. Don't make that happen. Don't make that your reality. Get away from that. That's poison. And something else that you can do is speak encouraging words to yourself. Words of affirmation. Tell yourself that you're good. Tell yourself that you're fine. Tell yourself that you are making good choices for your life. Encourage yourself. Give yourself any kind of word of affirmation that's affirming to you.
Yeah, well, a good way to figure out what you need to be affirmed in is to realize kind of the lies that you're listening to, the negative stuff that you're telling yourself, or that there's a voice saying, man, you suck. God, you should do better at this. Oh, you get money and you blow it, whatever, if only you fat pig, you should stop eating so much. Whatever it is, you say mean things to yourself. Yeah. When you hear those mean things, write the positive of that. It's like, I make healthy eating choices. You take the negative and you find the positive, and that's another way to
or tell yourself that you're beautiful. I mean, because that's the truth.
I'm beautiful. Okay, yeah. I like it. I have a hard time with that one.
So I guess that's probably enough information for you to chew on for a while. So
yeah.
Point is to go out and do that. Go and be creative. You have our permission.
Yay, you can do it. We believe in you. Thank you so much for listening to us today. We really appreciate you taking time to spend with us. You can look us up on Twitter at Hancock Creative. I'm going to start manning that much better. We are also on Instagram, Hancock Creative Shop, and we are on Etsy. Just search Hancock Creative Shop, and we sell all sorts of fun little things. And if you live in the Oklahoma area, or you find yourself driving through Oklahoma, stop in to see us in historic downtown Guthrie, where we have a little art gallery and handmade market, and we would love to say hi. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. We just want to say a special thanks to Vinton Bain for producing and recording and editing the heck out of our mess ups. We appreciate you, Vinton. And thank you again for listening. Goodbye.